Be inspired, supported, and empowered. This is the Global Healthy Living Foundation podcast network.
Welcome to Remission Possible, the podcast dedicated to guiding and supporting you on your mission to achieve low disease activity. We understand this challenge wasn't something you asked for, but remember, you're stronger than you think, and you deserve the opportunity to regain control and live your best life. In each episode, we'll share inspiring stories from patients who are succeeding in their mission and discuss how patients and doctors can work together to better understand the optimal course of treatment for different chronic conditions while keeping personal goals and lifestyle choices in mind. In today's episode, we have the privilege of hearing from Jed Finley, a patient living with Ankylosing Spondylitis, AS, a type of inflammatory arthritis that affects the spine and other joints in the body. Despite being diagnosed with AS at a young age, Jed has refused to let his condition limit his life. He's an active advocate for the arthritis community and uses his experiences to educate others about the challenges and triumphs of living with a chronic condition. Whether you're a patient in the early stages of your journey or someone looking for inspiration and motivation, this podcast is for you. So join us on this mission as we empower you with valuable insights and tips to break free from the cycle of pain and anxiety and ultimately bring you closer to achieving low disease activity. It's time to rewrite your story because remission is possible. I'm Angela DeGrassi, Research Manager for Patient-Centered Research at the Global Healthy Living Foundation, and I'll be your host today. We're joined by our guest, Jed Finley, who is an ankylosing spondylitis patient and advocate. He's the founder of Living with Ankylosing Spondylitis and was one of the stars of CreakyJoints web series, Backstories, and My Back is Killing Me. Thanks for joining us. Hi, Jed.
Hey, Angela. Thank you so much for having me on.
I'm so excited to talk to you. There are many remarkable parts of your story. Are you ready to dive in?
Let's do it. Let's dive right on in.
Okay, so let's start at the beginning. Can you tell us about your diagnosis? When did you get diagnosed, and what was that process like for you?
So I was diagnosed with ankylosing spondylitis in 1994 when I was 12 years old. And I've been an athlete. I've been very active. I knew what physical pain felt like. I knew how you're supposed to feel after playing a game of ice hockey. But then I started waking up with this pain that I'd never felt before, that was in joints that have never been affected before. And I was tired, and I was creaking and cracking like someone who was way older. So my parents, they noticed something was wrong. I went to my pediatrician, I'm sure, and he was like, yeah, you should probably go see a rheumatologist. And typically patients have to wait for months and years to get a diagnosis with axial spondyloarthritis or ankylosing spondylitis. But because of my young age, I got my diagnosis rather quickly because there's really no good reason for a 12-year-old to feel like they're 50 or 60 or older. So yeah, I was diagnosed, but unfortunately at the time, there was not a lot of treatment options for someone my age. Now there's tons of options. And so the official diagnosis was, you have AS, there's not much we can do about it, try to live your best life. And that's the way I lived for many, many years after.
Yeah, that sounds like it must have been a very discouraging diagnosis for a 12-year-old. Can you share any strategies or coping mechanisms that have been particularly helpful in maintaining a positive mindset and staying resilient in the face of AS?
Sure. For me, I like to keep physically active. You know, spondylitis is a disease that kind of takes over when you're at rest. And, you'll feel your worst symptoms in the morning. And then with physical exercise, things typically get better. For many years, I ran cross country, and that was my main sport. And I could run 10 miles. I could feel fine. I was a lot stiffer than others my age. And my coach was always like, loosen up. And I was like, I can't. But I try to stay physically active. It wasn't until I was in college, also still running cross country, and I broke my ankle. And that was the first time I took a break. And that's when my AS finally caught up with me about 10 years after diagnosis. So I like to stay physically active. I mow the lawn. I do yard work. When the weather's nice, I like to go for long walks. And I still like to get out there because that mental side of just going out into the world and feeling free, that helps me so much. I always say that I would much rather hurt because of something that I did, like, pushing it a little bit too hard, than hurting just because my body hates me. I'd rather do it to myself. Yes, I will hurt after I walk for 5 miles, guaranteed. But it's a better hurt than just sitting down and saying, I didn't do anything. Why am I hurting?
Right on. Yeah. Well, thank you for sharing that. Tell us a little bit about how you went from struggling to get that diagnosis as Jed to managing your condition and supporting the chronic illness community like you do so well as Jedi.
Very nice. I like that. I mean, like I said, I ignored my condition for many, many years because that's what I thought the only option was. After I went to that rheumatologist, I didn't do anything to treat it. I just kept trying to stay active, stretching, living my best life as possible. I never thought that there were any other options. So after getting used to ignoring my symptoms for so long, and then finally it hit me, I was like, okay, so this is part of my life. This is something that I do have to live with. So it was around 2007. Facebook had just introduced groups. And I thought, well, I've got AS. I have never met anyone with AS. But I bet there's at least 1 or 2 other people out there. I had no idea just how many people. I thought, yeah, it's a rare disease. Sure, maybe 10 or 12 people, but I'm going to find them. So I created the Facebook group Living with Ankylosing Spondylitis. And this is a way for spondies to get together, share their treatment, share their stories, what works for you, what doesn't work, just provide support to one another. I love being A, a source of information, but B, most of all, a source of support. I am living this life, and I always say that my AS gives me pride and purpose. I'm not ashamed of my disease, and I like to think that it has given me a whole nother area of life where I can help people and help out, and that other people may not have that experience. I realized, wait a minute, there's a whole world out there that I could be a part of. And I was like, that's perfect. That's it. Meaning of life, right there. Kuna Matata. Now I host a support group in St. Louis, but anything I can do to help other people, that's where I get my joy. That's how I became the Jedi.
Well, that's really amazing. And I really just lit up hearing you talk about the Facebook group and thinking you might find 1 or 2 other people out there. How many people are in your group today?
I think 2 years into it, I had still less than 100 people. Now we're close to 60,000 people. And the moderators and we go through at least 200 new posts every single day. People asking questions and have you tried this treatment? And has anyone experienced this symptom before? So not only does it allow me to reach out and help other patients, but it helps the members of the group also share what they know. So we all get to be little advocates.
You're doing a great thing, Jed. That's really awesome. Let's talk about remission. What does the term low disease activity mean to you, and how does quality of life play a role in this context?
Whether that's AS or that's fibromyalgia or any other chronic condition that people may live with, you want that low disease activity. So is my condition keeping me from enjoying certain activities? If my condition is allowing me to actually enjoy things, to me, that's the definition of low disease activity, where you can live life. Yes, you still have the condition. There is no cure for ankylosing spondylitis. It's going to be there forever and ever and ever. Medical science willing. But yeah, if we can live our life to where we want it to be, I think that's the definition of remission.
Right. And is remission a question that comes up often in your community?
Every once in a while, someone will ask, and it's usually a newer patient asking, do people ever experience remission? Sometimes I think for some people who've been living with AS for a while, remission kind of turns into a dirty word, oh, you said the R word, remission? Oh, honey, you think you're going to get to remission? What it is hope, we can hope that our condition will get better. We can hope that, we'll have some low disease activity. Sometimes you just have to be there to celebrate, whether you get 1 day of quote unquote remission. We like to share that, saying there is hope, yes, it may kick you back the following day, but when you have those days, those are golden opportunities. Some people say in my group that, well, I was feeling good, so I decided I was going to go paint my house, and now I'm paying for it. But now you have painted house. You have to take those small victories. We all live a different life, but we take those opportunities, to do the best that we can.
Right. Yeah, that's interesting. Everyone needs to go at their own pace. Within your group, is the term low disease activity more commonly used?
I think we prefer to say just good days. Maybe saying the word remission or low disease activity, maybe that is, feel like maybe you're pushing too much. I know some people who they're afraid to actually announce that they've had low disease activity because they think that black cloud of AS, it's right there on the horizon and just waiting for you to say those words.
Right. And how do you and your doctor work together to set expectations and define remission? In a CreakyJoints video series, My Backstory, that you were a very special guest in, you say, don't ever leave a doctor's office unsatisfied. Can you share if you faced situations like that recently and what happened?
So fortunately for me, whether it's not that I'm just as world famous as I sometimes think I am, it could also just be my confidence. But for the most part, rheumatologists that I've had, they recognize my expertise. They recognize like what I do. And I always tell them I lead support groups. I've been around here. I've learned about this. I've learned about this. I come in with a journal saying, hey, doc, here's what I'm experiencing. And they go, oh, well, you really know what you're doing. I ended up with a really great rheumatology practice where you see one doctor, but you're technically seeing everybody. And so it's this big team that works together and they celebrate my experience and everything. So yeah, I mean, for the most part lately, I have not had to convince them of anything. I have not had to tell them you need to stay around longer because I have more to tell you. They like to listen to me. I think if you come in prepared, they'll be excited to hear more about what you have to say because being an active patient, honestly, I think doctors enjoy that. You know, it's, oh, someone we can talk to. Is it, we don't have to take our time to explain stuff. They know what they're talking about. So yeah, I advise go into your rheumatologist, bring your diary, bring a list of symptoms, list of medications, be prepared to share a story.
Yeah, that certainly sounds like a 5-star experience to me. And I hope that many of our listeners get to experience that. How many different treatments have you tried, and what was it like switching from one therapy to the next?
So in the world of biologics, which if your listeners don't know, biologics are the kind of cornerstone treatment for spondylitis. It slows the progression, and while there is no cure, it's kind of the closest thing because it may not stop disease, but it slows it down greatly in a lot of people. I have been on 3 of them, and I was really loyal to my first one. I believe it was probably 4 years that I was on it and it was still working great. But the second one, I knew what good actually felt like. I knew what a good treatment was supposed to feel like. It was not doing everything that it should have. And some people say, give it a few months. But honestly, for me, after about 2 or 3 months, if you know you're not getting better, there's probably a good chance that it's not going to get better. I know a lot of people who stay with a treatment way too long due to brand loyalty, but you won't know how well it's going to work until you give it a try. You know, maybe someday there'll be this great blood test where they say, this is the perfect treatment for you. But unfortunately, they do not have that yet. It's a lot of trial and error. As for other treatments, I've been on every single NSAID and DMARD and all those other drug classes that they use to treat spondylitis and other arthritic conditions. I tried them all. Some of them work, some of them didn't. I think eventually you just gotta have to listen to yourself and say, am I doing better than I was a month ago? If the answer is no, maybe it's time to switch.
And what advice do you have for others who may be struggling to find the right therapy or who just settle because they don't want to deal with trial and error?
So, unfortunately, I have to say that trial and error is the best that you can do. You do need to give it a try and see if it works. If it doesn't, then just move on. Move on to the next one. There's no shame in that. There's unfortunately a lot of people I meet through my experience in support groups where nothing, and I mean nothing, works for them. And it's usually due to other conditions that they might have. Because chronic illness is laid as potato chips. You can't have just one. You know, you got to collect a few. For example, like I have ankylosing spondylitis. I also have Lyme disease and possibly 1 or 2 other ones that I haven't found yet. But you just have to kind of sit down, take a look at it. Am I getting better? If not, move on. If I am, stick with it. But I will say that there's new treatments being invented every single day. When I was diagnosed, there was nothing to do, at least for a 12-year-old. Adults had a few options, but 12-year-old, nothing. There's always hope, you know? Move on, move on, move on, keep trying. But most of all, just keep communicating with your doctor because overall, you can learn a lot from fellow patients, but they're the final say in what you actually try. So make a journal, write down your symptoms, tell them exactly how you're feeling, and don't just think, well, I don't want to waste their time. Again, they work for you, not the other way around. Don't let them waste your time. You're not going to waste their time.
That's great advice. Thanks for that. Can you share a specific moment or experience that stands out to you on your treatment journey? For example, a day when you felt great and you know that you reached low disease activity?
So if I am able to go out and do yard work, because right now I live on a farm. I have 3 acres to work on. It's a small farm, but it's a farm. If I can go out and I can mow the lawn and trim some bushes and rake up, if I could do all that and then cook dinner and maybe walk 5 miles the following day, I'd say I've got some low disease activity, But you never know until you try.
We're hoping lots of fellow patients hear this podcast. For all the patients listening who might be in early stages of their journey, if you had 3 words to share to give them courage to continue to seek the best possible treatment as a fellow patient, what would those words be?
It would be activity, perceptiveness, and just being true with yourself. Just be the active patient. Be active. Tell them, hey, doc, here's how I'm feeling, and here's what we're going to do. Perceptive is when you're actually paying attention to how you're doing. You notice, what, I started this medication a week ago, and I'm already feeling better. 2 weeks ago, I'm still feeling better. No one knows your body better than you. So if things are going well, then, you found the right treatment. But be true to yourself. Don't hide how you're feeling. If someone asks you how you're feeling, tell them, I'm feeling terrible. Hey, doc, it's not working. What are we going to do now? You're not going to bother your doctor, I promise. Just be true with yourself, Don't hide who you are.
Right on. And I'm just kind of thinking back to the 3 words you were saying that did really resonate with me, talking about being truthful with your doctor and speaking with them. No one can really replace your doctor, and you have to be true with your doctor too. Don't be afraid to have those conversations, right?
Exactly. Yeah. Don't ever hide yourself from your doctor. If you're not doing them any favors, and you're definitely not doing yourself any favors. If you're feeling bad, tell them you're feeling bad. If you say, I'm okay, whatever, I'm living my life, they're going to think everything's fine. And that's how you get that 5-minute appointment where they said, all right, well, just keep doing what you're doing. See you in 3 months. Be true with them. Say, nope, doc, I'm feeling bad. Let's sit down. We're going to talk this over. And yeah, be true. 100%. Don't ever hide yourself from that.
Well, Jed, what a great and inspiring way to end this episode. Thank you so much for taking the time to answer our questions and share about your journey. I wish you many great days ahead.
Well, thank you so much, and thank you so much for having me on. It's always a pleasure to share my voice with Global Healthy Living and CreakyJoints and just everyone who's listening. If you have AS, go out, talk to your rheumatologist or get a rheumatologist, get on a treatment that works for you. And then, like we said, be true to yourself, because you're the only person you can be.
I love that. Thank you for joining us on Remission Possible, the podcast where we explore the path to low disease activity and improved well-being. We hope the stories, insight, and guidance we've shared have inspired and empowered you along the way. This podcast was made possible with support from AbbVie US. If you like what you've heard, be sure to rate our podcast, write a positive review, and spread the word by sharing with your family and friends. It'll help more people like you find us.
Be inspired, supported, and empowered. This is the Global Healthy Living Foundation Podcast Network.